Okay, well, welcome everybody. My name is Jackie Ratkovic, and I will be hosting the session this morning. If anyone was like me, yeah, Suzanne, if anyone was like me, Wanda and I this morning, we felt like we've been doing this for 20 some years, but waking up this morning after the summer, we had to kind of get our brain back into working mode. So I'm sure a lot of other people feel that way this morning. And if you're coming in for the recording, welcome. As we get started, I would like to start off with a land acknowledgement before we begin, before we do introductions. And we would like to acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have cared for, lived on, and celebrated these lands for many years. Today, though we gather on a virtual platform, we take a moment to express our gratitude for the land that supports us and to recognize the deep connections all peoples have to it. As we reflect on this beautiful landscape from Cold Lake First Nation, let us take a moment to think about how we can move forward in a spirit of reconciliation, respect, and collaboration, honoring the histories and cultures of all those who have walked these lands before us. So, thank you everybody for joining today. I'll introduce myself and then I'll let my colleague Wanda go ahead. My name is Jackie Radkovic. I'm from the Northeast office. I actually live in Cold Lake and get to enjoy the beautiful lake and the surroundings that are around me. I've been working with the Northeast Consortium now for 24 years, and I have the joy of being able to work with amazing colleagues like Wanda, and I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm Wanda Deckens from the Calgary office, and I live actually just close to Black Diamond, just south of Calgary. So very happy to be here with Jackie and happy to see you guys and start talking about math again this year. Thanks, Jackie.
Awesome. Thanks, Wanda. Well, I just wanted to start off with kind of our agenda for today. Wanda and I work a lot with teachers about what could the first 2 weeks of school look like. And a lot of our work happens actually at the end of June, where we sit and we get to sit down with teachers and help them. How do we establish great connections with students? How do we secure their attention in those first 2 weeks of class? And we do a lot of our work in June, and we also do a lot of our work as well at the end of August, where teachers are working together and trying to give the students the best experience with math, because a lot of them have sort of math experiences that are not great. And some of them do love math, but how do we combine all that together? So, our five key areas of focus today are going to be the following. We're going to talk about building trust and beliefs, inspiring curiosity, promoting collaboration, establishing expectations, and engaging tasks. And Wanda and I have created a plethora of resources for you to be able to follow up from today. So I kind of challenge you, take a piece of paper and make yourself a little map and write down some key things you're like, oh yeah, I want to try that, or that's something that I'd like to do, or make a little note of a website that maybe we've focused on. Again, you'll get a follow-up link in the chat. Wanda will do that with all the resources we're tagging and we're talking about today as we go through everything today. So before we get started, we just want to kind of get to know you. It's kind of always when we go online, it's always weird. And so Wanda has put in a short link to the companion slides, and they look something like this. And if you come on in here, what we'd like you to do is if you can slide to slide 4 and slide 5, grab one of these little arrows, and if you can just let us know what grade level you're teaching. And if you are in a supportive role or a superintendent, assistant superintendent, you can just click on other, but just grab a little arrow and check it off on which grade level that you're at. So there's two slides, slide 4 and slide 5. If slide 4 gets a little bit too busy, and yeah, get started. And for people who are just coming in, if you just click on the companion slides link that Wanda has put in the chat, that's where you can access what you can see on the screen. If you're coming in from a phone, and sometimes that's a little bit cumbersome, just go ahead and put in the chat the grade level that you're teaching, or a split grade, or other, if you can't access the slides. And as you've put your little arrow of, we kind of got a good mix here, Wanda, of grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6, and other. As you're doing that, you can see here on my slide, I said 4 to 6 who is here, but also I added the question, how can you support? So you can see there, if you want to slide down to slide 6 and slide 7, Wanda and I know that we have some teachers here that have many years of experience, few years of experience, some are administrators, but sometimes we can help each other out. Maybe there's some ideas that you can share with some of your colleagues of how you might start off the year. And as we go through today, you have access to this document, and feel free to add to this document here of some of the different things that you might try at the beginning of the year that might be helpful to other people that are within the group today. So I just wanted to add that little note in there to see that. Is there anything else you want to add, Wanda?
No, I think that's perfect. And people will have these slides long going. So if you share with each other, it's a great just sort of way to learn from the room here. Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first part that we're going to kind of get to look at is we're going to take a look at getting to know your students. How in the first 2 weeks are we going to try to get to know our students, who they are, what they like, what they dislike? And the big thing, the message that Wanda and I want to give for you today is, even though this says how to start off the year with curiosity with your students and connections, building trust, inspiring curiosity, promoting collaboration, establishing expectations, and engaging tasks, this is actually just not something that happens in the first 2 weeks. How do I continue this for the rest of the year? Because sometimes teachers, will tell me, Jackie, it worked out really good in the first 2 weeks. We planned this, we did this together, but now it's falling apart. And I said, well, how have you come back to some of the activities you've done? And they say, well, I didn't. So I also want you to keep that in mind, that this is not just the first 2 weeks. How do we continue with this throughout the year? So I want to start off with a video that Wanda shared with me. That's a beautiful video. And what I want you to do is, as you're listening to it and watch it, I want you to feel your students in the video, because they're coming in with expectations and things that they have, established when it comes to math. And I think it's a great way to start off how we want to plan those first 2 weeks.
How do you feel about math?
I'm not good at math.
I just don't get it.
It makes me kind of feel uncomfortable.
When I get called on in math class, I feel scared.
Because I'm afraid I'm gonna mess up the problem.
My brain just doesn't think anymore, it doesn't think straight, and I just go like, okay, what do I do? I have no idea what to do.
Math makes me feel stupid.
Scared that I would answer wrong or get laughed at.
I'll never be able to do this.
Scene 16, take 1, marker.
I'm still learning who I am, what I'm good at.
Forming my idea of my own potential.
And if I think I can't be good at math, I won't be.
But math is everywhere.
Math is a basic life skill. Without math, I could get left behind.
So help me know that limits don't exist.
That math isn't beyond my reach.
That my potential can take me anywhere.
That with hard work and the right mindset,
I can grow.
because math esteem is self-esteem.
With math, I can be a fashion designer,
A doctor,
A computer programmer.
a wildlife biologist.
A teacher.
with math, I can be anything.
So click the link,
Take the pledge
And find out how you can implement
growth mindset strategies
to improve your students' math esteem.
So I can have a fighting chance.
to become who I want to be.
Okay. So Wanda and I found that video about, creating those relationships between teachers and between students and students, and between students and math. And I just want you to, what was your first response? Give me one word response in the chat when you watched that video. What kind of emotion did it evoke for you? Mm-hmm. Betty, it's funny that you say emotional. Wanda and I, the first time we watched this video, we kind of got a little bit teary-eyed as we kind of watched it because um, we know our students and how hard we work as teachers to try to get them to feel that they belong and they empower them to be mathematical thinkers. Awesome. Thanks for the comments in the chats. So getting to know your students, building that trust and those beliefs, that was a big thing Wanda and I talked about when we taught our own students, is we always would do a lot of check-ins with students, where they're at, how they're feeling, and that building trust and belief. And those students really need your help when it comes to figuring out math and how math works. The second part is inspiring curiosity. What dispositions are important in learning? How might you continue to build these dispositions over the year? What students share that tell you about their learning? So if you haven't heard about ucube.org, that's going to be on the resource list. I'm going to showcase some stuff a little bit later on, but that is definitely a go-to that teachers have given me good feedback saying, oh man, like this was awesome for the first 2 weeks of school. Thanks for sharing that. The third one is establishing expectations. What do these students believe it means to be good at math? Do students see themselves as mathematicians? I remember when I was teaching, I would ask students, what is math? Just that question, just a simple one. What is math? And students would be adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, but also emotion came in. Frustrating, embarrassing, I don't want to come to school. And then at the end of the year, I would ask the same questions. So that would be the question that I would ask you is, what do you want to hear from your students at the end of the year? Well, then that's what you have to embed in your lessons, in your instructions throughout the year, and especially those first 2 weeks of school. You want those students to run home and say, every parent goes, or every guardian goes, hey, how was school? What happened in school? Wouldn't it be awesome if math was the first subject that they said, we didn't start on page 2. We didn't go to the library and check our textbooks out. We didn't start with a worksheet. We worked on some stuff that made us collaborate and think together. And so those are things I want you to think about when you're going to start doing your planning. The fourth one is engaging tasks. Based on your student observations, how might you adjust your planning and instruction when and how might you include those rich tasks? And all of us know about the rich tasks, where to find them, some of them, how to use them. But today you're going to have a little bit more time to take a look a little bit more. And the last one is collaboration. What does it mean to students when we're talking about collaborating, that group work? And so the big piece for me with that one is, this is the ucubed website. This is one piece that I pulled from it. And you can download this PDF over here, and it's called a good group work activity. And I'm going to showcase it again with a task a little bit later on, but I wanted to introduce it here because, man, I love this question here. These two questions here, these prompts for students. And what happens in this activity, students actually sit together and they work together. And you reflect on the things you do not like people to say and do when you're working on math in a group. And then the students have a discussion on the second question. Reflect on the things you do like people to say and do when you are working together on a group. And what I love about the ucube.org, they also always have a great little lesson plan supporting students, and it's okay for them to make mistakes. But this one is just focusing on group work. And this is just a little haha. Wouldn't it be awesome for our principals if we reflect on things we do not like people saying in a staff meeting, and then reflect on things we do like people saying in a staff meeting? I'm just kidding, but sometimes that happens in staff meetings. But that's the same thing, interacting together within a group. I thought that these two questions were amazing questions. And man, you're really going to hear and get a feel of your students and how they think with a question like that. So the other piece that I wanted to talk about is this is available from the APLC website. So this is the website, and this is called a relationship menu. And this relationship menu was created by my colleague Charlie, and this resource is about building relationship with students. So it has a whole bunch. It's a slide deck, and the relationship menu looks like this. It's a whole slide deck of all the different ways that you can engage with your students to get to know your students, name pronunciations, find someone who helped me help you. And so the reason it's called a relationship bistro is because there's starters, bigger bites, you can see here, and then the main menu. So things that could be done in just a couple of minutes, but things that could obviously be used for longer periods of time. I want to showcase one. It's on slide 11. And then this one says, "You've got mail." So this one over here, when you take a look at this one, is an amazing one. It's about having postcards, but I remember when I was teaching, I used to pick 2 students a week that I would send a note home, or at that time I sent like a little postcard because when I was teaching, it was a little bit while back. You still can find postcards. You can still write a nice little message and send it in a mail. And then throughout the year, write a postcard or a little note, send it home to a parent, to each of your students that highlight their strengths or recent achievements. And I think this is a really powerful thing to do. And the reason that I wanted to start off with this is I remember one time I had a mom who came into parent teacher interviews, and she actually started crying. And I said, "Oh my goodness, how is this going to go?" And she was crying because she said she'd never seen her son as happy as he is in math, because you actually sent a note home, and most of the notes that come home for my son are things about things he's not doing well. So that kind of made me go, I want to keep doing this. This is something that's worthwhile, to just make a nice little written note. We're so stuck in technology and computers and emails. A handwritten personal note to a parent or guardian to let those students know why they're important. And it's not only on their achievement within the classrooms. It might be something, a way a student helped, or how long a student persevered in class today, or didn't get as frustrated. Those types of things will definitely be helpful. So that relationship menu, wanted to put the link in the chat. So I'm going to give everybody just about 2 minutes. Go through that. Pick one of those ones off those slides that you're like, hey, I want to give that a try in my first 2 weeks of school. So I'm going to just look on my phone. I'm going to be quiet for about 2 minutes and give you a chance to click on that link and get in there and take a look at that relationship menu. For the people who are coming in for the recording, this is your time to click on that link. Also to pick something in there that you could feel that you could use in the first 2 weeks of school. And as you're looking through that relationship menu, if there's something that you're like, ooh, I want to try that, throw that in the chat. Say, hey, I want to try out slide 7 or slide 11, slide 14. If you found something that you really resonates with you, throw that in the chat. Yes, Wanda, thanks. If you can't find that resource, let us know in the chat. Oh, thanks, Erin, for throwing that in the chat. The morning meeting with a daily affirmation incorporated. Absolutely. Now, I know sometimes when you come to presentations, you just sometimes you get thrown a lot of resources. But Wanda and I really wanted to just give everybody just a few minutes to just get into this one and kind of take a look at it and make sense of it and just to go, oh, there is a lot of stuff in here on how I can get to know my students. And you can see that a lot of this stuff inside the getting to know your students is not math related. It is getting to know who they are first before we get started. And especially a lot of us teach grade 4, 5, and 6. So we're generalists. We're not just teaching mathematics. We're teaching science and social and everything else. And so what this does is it focuses on this. And thanks, Chris. This is me and one word. I like you've got homework for parents. Yeah, Colin. That one there, what happened is we've also created one, an adapted one that you guys will be able to have a chance to take a look at and to be able to use. That one's pretty cool. If you haven't checked that out, you've got homework for parents where parents get to send you information that they want you to know about their child. Slide 13, this is me. Thanks, Betty. Slide 8, that's a great idea too. Yes, take a look at slide 8 that Suzanne has put on that resource. So thanks for delving in there and throwing some of the information into the chat. It helps me and it helps Wanda to know that, hey, you guys are back there in this world of, of virtual presentations. So the big thing is these are the 5 that Wanda and I wanted to focus on. But hey, the other thing we wanted to let to know is what are some ways that you get to know your students at the beginning of the year? So if you can just take a moment and just throw that into the chat, or if you don't want to throw it in the chat, please remember the this one over here, the companion slides, slide number 6 or slide number 7. You can see here some people started putting some information on there. If you want to start, if you want to put your ways that you start off the year, you can also put them on the companion slide. But in the chat, if there's anything that you do at the beginning of the year that you'd like to share with the rest of the group, since we're all experts because we are all teachers and we have that experience with students, please feel free to throw that in the chat. As you're laying that in the chat or the companion slides, I'm going to go to part 2. So part 2 that we're going to take a look at is we're going to kind of do a little bit of a learning experience together with us together as teachers. And we're not going to go into breakout rooms. You're going to have an opportunity to kind of try out an activity. And so these are some samples that we're going to take a look at. I'm just going to highlight one. And a lot of the stuff that Wanda and I highlight in the session, Wanda's doing a session tomorrow if you want to let your colleagues know for K to 3. I'm doing the 4 to 6. And the one that I get a lot of feedback from teachers is the one called 4 4s. And the focus of the lesson is having a growth mindset for mathematics is important. We can all learn math. Self-belief is really important. How that works with the 4 4s is I'm just going to click on it. And this is what it looks like. So remember I talked about the ucube.org website. So there is in the website, there is a section in there that talks about the first 2 weeks of schools, activities you can use. This is one of them. And this activity, how this activity works is you can see in here the lesson plan. So here's a video. They would say for 4 minutes, you play this video. Then the possible video discussions is, remember those questions I talked about at the beginning, reflect on the things you do not like people to say and do when you're working in a group, and then what you do like them. And then here's the task. The task is you guys are going to play around with this with me today on the companion slides. You're going to find the numbers from 1 to 20 using only 4 fours and any operation. So you can add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Students work in groups and come up to the board to share their solutions whenever they find them. So this is a collaboration one. This is not just sit at your desk, one person finds all the combinations. You are working on this together. And review the key concept at the end of a growth mindset. Perseverance. How did you feel? When did you want to give up? What were you frustrated with? And so it lays this all out like this. And then you can see here, students would write just the numbers from 1 to 20 and then ask them to include as many examples as they can think of a solution for each of those. So the task is you can only use fours. You have to use all 4 fours, but you can add, subtract, multiply, or divide to come up with your answers. And so as students are working on this together, there's the whole lesson plan for it. So what I wanted to show you is if you come back onto your companion slides. So on those companion slides, you can see here on slide 8, I've just clicked, slide 8. We have lots of people in here, so I had to kind of spread it out. If your last name begins with an A to a J, you're going to go on to slides 9 to 13. If your last name begins with a K to a Z, so my last name starts with an R, so I would go find slides 14 to 18. And I want you to pick a slide and then go ahead and I want you to start working and collaborating. So other people will come into your slide, which is okay. That's not a problem. And what I want you to do is I want you to add, subtract, multiply, or divide to come up with those answers. So how do I come up with an answer of 1? How do I come up with an answer of 20? How do I come up with an answer of 14? So again, here's the instructions on the top of each of those. You have to use 4 fours. I want you to engage in this task so you can feel if this is something you'd like to try in the first 2 weeks of school. So I'm going to give everybody 5 minutes. The people who are at home watching the recording, you can use this slide deck or just write the numbers from 1 to 20 on a piece of paper and see how far you can get in 5 minutes. Okay, good luck. And if you're having trouble, I'm just going to add this. If you're having trouble accessing the companion slides, then just write the numbers from 1 to 20 on a piece of paper and just do it in the background if you don't want to engage with the technology. Just a hint as you're going through, take a look at what other people are putting in. How can you just tweak it a little bit, a little different operation in there to come up with those different solutions? Okay, so you have a choice. You can keep listening to me or fill in all those 20 solutions between now and the 10:15 that we're here. But what I wanted you to do is I just wanted you to share kind of a reflection. I put the link to I put a link in there to the actual lesson plan, but we'll look at that in a minute and choose one to share in the chat. So how could this experience help you to get to know your students? Either choose that, or number two, how might something like this help with building classroom culture? So I just want you to think about those two questions, and I want you to respond to either number one or number two in the chat. And if you need to go back and look kind of at the lesson plan that looks like this, please by all means go ahead and take a look at that before you answer in the chat. So there are some extensions on the bottom that you can take a look at to see if you wanted to change the task. But my question to you is just take a minute to reflect. I'm hoping I'm going to get a few responses into the chat. How could this experience help you to get to know your students? Or how might something like this help with building classroom culture? So please feel free to put those responses in the chat. Thanks, Jen, for starting it off. Yep, you can quickly see who understands which operations, order of operations, those components. And some students might not have learned order of operations, but that's okay. You know, that would be something to bring back later on when you are teaching order of operations for sure. Number one, see who's willing into and afraid of taking chances. Yeah, Colin, absolutely. You're going to also find out the students who are the ones that are like just the ones that just tell everybody the answers. You know what I mean? Who are the students that are encouraging and saying, hey, you know, have you tried any division? Because division might help you solve some of them. You're looking for those students in the question that they give to each other. Yeah, Wanda, is this the 4-4 something you might use with students for sure? And then Marissa, thank you. It would let me know which operation students are most comfortable with, and because it is a group activity, it would show who takes a leadership role and who is more shy. Yep, absolutely. Teamwork helps them to get to know their classmates, and we get to see the spirit that they have within it. Who's taking risks? Who's frustrated? Absolutely. You know how many times I've kind of tried this activity and how many teachers get frustrated with it? Like, come on, move along, Jackie. I don't want to do this. I can learn who's willing to make an attempt, even if it's not correct, and who can give good feedback. Yeah, feedback is key. Take a classroom's ideas and kindly guide them towards the answer. And as a teacher, I love that one, Mackenzie, where you can also just put on questions you heard from students that assisted other students in keeping going or willing to move forward. These are the questions that I heard in the class. What do you guys think about these questions when you work together again? And you can create that poster from that activity. Those ones who are confident and who are more unsure. I like the lesson pairs this activity with the previous good group habits. Yep, absolutely. I really love that part of it. It can give me what is students' background knowledge, to get to know the students by seeing levels of frustration, growth mindset, resilience, who are willing to work in a group, don't want to anyone else's feedback. That's true too. That's definitely a big one. And could reflect back with students on highlight great group work ideas. What did they experience that was great group work? For sure. And so this could be a poster. It could be our school norms that we create together as a class. The one thing, the best feedback I got one time is I had a math coach come into my classroom and she says, Jackie, you need to take down those posters that say do not and no. And I go, what do you mean? You always have on your posters, don't do this. And she says, don't not and no. In this class, we do not do this. We don't do this. And she said, who came up with those rules? And I said, well, I did. And she goes, well, did you collaborate with your students with it? And I said, no, and this is what I expect in my class. And then she goes, why do I give you a spin on this? Why don't you create a poster with your students? And I can guarantee you all these things will come out, but don't use the words don't, not, and no. Because when I say don't think of a watermelon, what did you guys all think about? Watermelon. Don't get up out of your desk when you're working on your activity. What do kids want to do? They want to get out of their desks. So that was a cool thing that I got feedback on. Don't, not, no. Those are things that we don't want to be putting on some of these posters because it focuses our attentions on the things we don't want them to be doing. So that's just kind of an experience piece that I've had with a math coach that came into my classroom. So thank you for sharing in the chat. I really appreciate that. Really good comments in there. So the next part is, how do you know you picked the right activity? What makes a rich task? So you can notice in the 4-4s that a lot of students that are just comfortable with adding and subtracting will just add and subtract. And then other kids who can add, subtract, multiply, divide, recognize multiplying by 1, dividing by 4 will give me an answer of 1. How do I work with that? But a low floor, high ceiling task in math is designed to be accessible to all students. Low floor, while also providing opportunities for deeper exploration and advanced thinking. So that's what you want to think about. So when you guys get a chance here to look at some activities that you could use, I want you to think about that. The second one is, can you find activities that allow for multiple approaches and or solutions? So the activity should provide that multiple approach to highlight students' strengths rather than their deficits. Discipline will be challenged if the activity lacks that flexibility to accommodate all learning levels. And collaboration is a focus. Providing students with opportunities to collaborate establishes expectations and sets the tone for the year. So those would be 3 things I want you to think about when you start have a chance here to look at some activities. So the third part we're going to get into is a little bit of the planning part. Remember I talked about the stuff that's in orange I'm going to highlight here today, but the week of inspiring math. So this is the U Cubed website. One is going to put it into the chat. There's 2 different ways to go ahead and look at it. I like this old one because this is the week of inspirational math I always went to. So I always like clicking on this one. So you can click on here and then you can see here there's a whole bunch of different grades that you can choose from. So I'm going to pick grades 3 to 5. Remember, this is based out of Common Core out of the States. So sometimes we might have to go back to the K to 2 one or the 3 to 5 one, depending on where your students are at. You know the students that you're coming in. And remember that video that I started with? We don't ever want them to feel like they're not successful in the tasks that we're going to give them. So you can see here, there's a whole bunch of different kinds of activities that you can kind of take a look at. So this one's called Mistakes Are a Beautiful Thing. And then you can take a look here. This one has these emojis. This one's a cool one. I'm going to put this one into the chat because students really like this one and teachers like this one. So where I got that one, I just put that one into the chat. And so what I love about it, it has an introduction, it has the activity, it also has any resources that you need to use, and then it tells you, usually it has a growth mindset video that's also available on there. So this one is called the Week of Inspiring Math. And then you can take a look here. Those are the different ones. There's different days and you can click on that. So that's the first one I wanted to showcase. The second one, because I'm going to give you a minute to take a look at these, is I Love 3-Act Tasks from Graham Fletcher. And how many of people are familiar with 3-Act Tasks? If you are, put a Y in the chat or an N in the chat. Okay, I got about 50-50 in the chat. And so when you take a look here, these 3-act tasks, I'm not going to go into it, but what I love about this site that I showed you over here, when you get a chance to click on it, it talks about here on the third column, the big ideas, and what do you want to wonder? So in a nutshell, how a 3-act task works is there's also student kind of recording sheets. You just have to sign up, but you don't get a whole bunch of information. But you can take a look here. It has all kind of the different grade levels according to like Common Core. But when you take a look, this one here, I love this one, the orange. How a 3-act task works is Act 1, you activate their curiosity by showing them a video. They watch the video. There's some questions that are down here below. Act 2 is you're given a little bit more information. So in this one here, you get the weight of a single cube and the weight of an orange. And then Act 3 is where they actually reveal the picture and they answer a question that they had about the video. So the first part, Act 1, is activating curiosity. Getting kids to say, what did you see? What did you notice? You can see the questions are like that. Or sometimes they get a little bit more specific. In this case, how many Unifix cubes will it take until the balance is level? You're going to do an estimate. And so what's nice about these is there's multiple ways that you can go in there and put different ways that you see how you would solve the problem. Wanda, is there anything you want to add to the 3-act tasks?
I love that you highlighted it because there's so many out there. It can get a little bit overwhelming sometimes. So this site that you shared, Jackie, is a great one to start with and just pick a couple and try them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you click on the video, you play the video, and then there's the questions. You go to the second part and you click on the link and it shows you the progressions of the videos are already done. Anybody else wants to put any of their feedback of how you've used 3-act tasks in the chat, please feel free just to let other people know why you use it or how you've used it. So I just wanted to showcase that. Is because of time, I can't go through a 3-act task, but I just showcased one site. There's lots of 3-act tasks. Links, you can go all over. Making Math Moments above here has them. There's lots of different places. I just wanted to highlight that one because it was just a nice compact way of taking a look at it. And I'm going to be quiet because this one here is the quick and easy ready to use tasks. Wanda created this with another teacher and it is amazing. I have gotten a lot of feedback from teachers saying this is one of my go-to websites. So Wanda, go ahead, just explain it a little bit.
Oh, well, thanks, Jackie. Well, yeah, there's a many great routines out there that teachers are using. And so Lisa and I thought, you know what, let's try to just put them all in one spot together. So you have kind of the research across the top that they're based on, the whole ideas. And now where Jackie's showing us, there's Steve Wyborny. And you see how there's a bunch of dots above Steve Wyborny's name. Those are all different possibilities that he's created. You have which one does it belong? You have Greg Tang in the math books on the far right. So anything you see up here is free, ready to go, and it provides some really great math conversations, I would say. So if you see one of these routines that you haven't used before, maybe that's a great one to say, hey, I'm going to check out this one that's called over under. What is that about? Try one new one. Maybe this highlights some that you've used previously, and it's just a good reminder of, oh yeah, I kind of want to go back to, SD mysteries. So just collect it all together here for you. Thanks, Jackie.
Awesome, Wanda. Thank you so much. Yeah, this one is really well put together. It's like all the top key ones that I suggest for teachers to get those conversation starters, those tasks, those warm-ups, anything like that. But a lot of those in there, what I would recommend if you would want to use them kind of like, when you start doing your planning, if I want to do a warm-up, just like a 5-minute warm-up every day, pick one of those sites and do it really well for 2 weeks. Sometimes a long time ago, I used to say, pick a different site every day of the week. And I've kind of changed my thinking about that from feedback from teachers. We want kids to get consistent with the conversation, what's expected of them in those first few minutes. And so on there, it's a really great place to kind of play around with it. The other one too is Math and Me. This one here is a name tent student reflection. I love this name tent. Wanda and I have created it, and it was adapted by Sarah Vanderwerf. She created these name tents, and then you use this form to communicate with me. So write a comment or question or make a suggestion about this class. Each day I'll respond to what you write. Thank you for your time. Leave this name tent on your table each day. So on the first day, what happens is the students can write some comments about a task that they did, that they worked on. So on day one, they can have some tasks, and then you respond as a teacher. And then what happens is possible questions to respond to. How do you feel about math? What would you like me to know about you outside of school? What hopes do you have for your class for the 2025-26 year? What do you like about math or this class? What are you fearful of? What activities are you involved in after school? Draw a picture, sketch of how you're feeling. Draw a picture, sketch of how something that represents you. And so you can see in here, you could ask those questions, and then you can get the students to write it, and then you as a teacher put the comments on there. And if you want to take a look at the one here that Sarah did, you can take a look on here. But some teachers really like this because students really loved that their teachers would handwrite a comment after some of these questions were written on here. And the reason it's called a name tent is you kind of fold it in half here, and the one side is the comments, and the other side are the teacher's response. Okay, and so this is a really great way to kind of get to know your students. So we adapted it from this website. We already have it, the form already ready for you guys to use. All you have to use is make a copy of this for your students. So that is about Math and Me, and ask students what they believe it means to be good at math, or do students see themselves as mathematicians? The second one is you can do a survey. That's another way to plan on building those relationships. So the survey, my favorite food, have students move to one of the 4 corners of the room based on answer suggestions. This is just getting to know them without getting into the heavy work yet. And the third thing is I would recommend if you're a person that does do warm-ups or starters or bell work or whatever you want to call it at the beginning of class, I would start that the first week of school, because you're setting those expectations with students, and they need to know that the first few minutes of class is going to be about communicating, talking, sense making, and being able to kind of play around with those ideas. How many people do a warm-up or starter in the first few minutes of their class? If you do, put a Y in the chat or an N in the chat if you haven't attempted or tried that. Awesome, Jen. Yeah, for sure. It works in grade 1, it works in kindergarten, and it also works in grade 4. And what's that nice about that? I remember when I used to do starters with my own class, I would have kids who would actually get there on time after phys ed class because they didn't want to miss the starter. Because in my class at the time, they told me that was the most riveting thing that they had in class was the first few minutes because of the open-endedness of the activities that they got to work with. So we're going to kind of play around with one. I know a lot of you are familiar with SD Mysteries, but I'm going to show you Steve Wyburny. That's the one that Wanda showcased on that website. This one is called SD Mysteries. And so I want to show you this. We're going to engage in it. So if you just have a little piece of paper in front of you, what I want you to do is I want you to follow along. And how SD Mysteries works is this. I want you, there's a whole bunch of sharpeners in that vase. And I want you, before you get started, could you make me a little table that says too low of an estimate, too high, and then actual. So make a table, too low, too high, and actual. And what I want you to do is I want you to give me an estimate that would be too low for the amount of sharpeners here. So when I say too low, like you'd bet money on it. You'd be like, yeah, there's no way there's that many in there. But let's not be ridiculous because we deal with grade 4, 5, and 6 students. So some of them go 0. Well, let's talk about that. That's a little bit of a ridiculous answer because we see that there are a whole bunch of sharpeners there. So write down a too low estimate. And then what I want you to do is I want you to give me a slightly too high of an estimate. Slightly too high. You'd bet money on it. Yeah, for sure. There's no way there's that many sharpeners. That's too many. Because I want you to have a range. Kids have difficulty estimating. When you ask them to estimate this many sharpeners, some of them don't even have strategies of how they go about doing it. They just guess. So I have to give them, he doesn't talk about this. I've kind of added this into the SD Mysteries, but what's too low, what's too high. Then now on your third column, I want you to write how many do you actually think are in there. So go ahead, write that down. If you're coming in on the recording, please do the same. Too low, too high, and give me your actual estimate. And then what's going to happen is that as the clues appear, I'm going to give you information to narrow down the possibilities to a smaller set. After each clue, use estimation again to determine which of the remaining answers is most reasonable. Now, anybody who've tried SD Mysteries, and you can tell me in the chat, but I get a lot of feedback, hey Wanda, on SD Mysteries, like kids, love it. I told my husband one time that I was like, oh yeah, I did this SD Mysteries, they got to estimate. They didn't even want to go for recess. And my husband's like, yeah, right. How many kids don't want to go for recess for math? I said, no, they didn't. They really loved this. So in the chat, please feel free to give your feedback about SD Mysteries. Now, what you're going to do is after each clue, if it's no longer possible, write down a new estimate and be prepared to explain why you chose it. So now I'm going to give you some clues. So when I give you the clue, what I want you to do is if you have to change your estimate, please don't scribble it out. Please don't erase it. I just want you to put your new estimate underneath your actual estimate because mistakes are learning opportunities. This is a beautiful one to use to talk about that math is messy until we know what we're doing. So Steve Wyburny does 3 things. He sometimes gives a chart, sometimes doesn't give a chart, and sometimes breaks the chart apart. So I'm going to give you a little harder one because you guys are adults today. So here's the first one. The answer is a 2-digit number that is a multiple of 6. So it's a 2-digit number that's a multiple of 6. And you can see there on the chart, it took away all the numbers that are not a multiple of 6. For some students, if they were going to use this, if you want success for all, they would need a hundreds chart in front of them so that they can work with the hundreds chart, because this one that I'm giving you is more for adults. It's a little too hard. I wouldn't start this one in 4, 5, and 6, but I wanted to give a little harder one to challenge you guys as adults. Clue number 2. There's one square number remaining. Eliminate that number and every number that is less than it. So on there that you see that's remaining, there is one square number remaining. Eliminate that number and every number that's less than that. Clue 3. Cross out the multiples of 7, or cross out the ones that are divisible by 7. Or 7 times what number gives me that number. You're going to cross those ones out. If I'm going too fast, say slow down in the chat. Yeah, Wanda, that's what I wanted to highlight about this. Man, at the beginning of your first 2 weeks, if you want to start creating a word wall, look at the words that you could be using from this task. Digit, multiple, square number, less than. Already keywords for grade 4, 5, and 6. Clue number 4, eliminate the multiples of 12. Multiples of 12. So I can either take my number and divide it by 12, or 12 times some number will give me some of those numbers. If I can go 12 times, or I can divide it by 12, or it's a multiple of 12, I'm going to get rid of it. Yeah. And then the last clue. Multiply each of these numbers by 3 and eliminate those products. Multiply each of these numbers by 3 and eliminate those products. 22 and 30. So you're using 22, you're multiplying it by 3. You're doing 30, you're multiplying it by 3. And then you're going to eliminate it. Okay, in the chat, let's see your answers. No wonder they were following along. They all have answers. I'm proud of you guys. Awesome. Okay, drum roll. It was between those two, 54 and 78, and the reveal, 54 pencil sharpeners. Woo! Now, like Wanda said, if you go back to these clues, again, multiple, eliminate, products, 22, like there's so much vocabulary. Would I start grade 4, 5, or 6 with this one? Absolutely not. But he has different levels. So just so you know, with SC Mysteries, there's a level 100, 200, 300, 400. So there's different levels that you can access that you can use for your students. Now that one there, that one showed you the hundreds chart, whereas you can see here, he has 3 sets in here. This one that he has here doesn't show the hundreds chart. This one here, the second set, shows a hundreds chart, but you as a teacher would mark this off with the students, working with them. And then the third set, it actually eliminates them. So you have 3 different ways to use it with your students. You can use it with the hundreds chart and the clues get rid of it. With the hundreds chart, you get rid of the answers with the students, or no hundreds chart. I sometimes tell teachers I like the hundreds chart in front of students and not having them be eliminated, because I want to find out, how do they know how to problem solve this? How do they get rid of numbers that aren't going to work? But I definitely would start with something a little bit easier. Okay, so the other piece that Wanda and I created is, I just wanted to show you this. We created a template. And this is where I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes to explore all these top 5 things that we wanted to work on. We did create kind of a template. And what I did is, you can see in here on this template, is I kind of put the 4-4s activity. So on Monday, this is the learning experience, 4-4s. What are the competencies that the 4-4s kind of work on? They definitely work on communication, creativity and innovation, problem solving, managing information. So I would click on all these. Critical thinking is also a component in there. And so all of those competencies are in that task. And then with the 4-4s, I have the developmental competency phase developmental level. You can put that in or not. And then there's a closure activity. What are the materials I need? Accommodations. I put in there students could use a calculator. But this was a template that we created. And then we also wanted to make it easy for you is we wanted to also give you links to the different sites that you can pull your activities that you wanted to do if you wanted to do them from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so it's all kind of laid out for you in a template, in a planner. Beautiful thing about this, you can go file, make a copy. If you're like, I'm not going to put competencies in there, I'm not going to put those kind of pieces in there, I want to put other things in this planning chart, you're more than welcome to adapt that. So you can edit this as well. So as you can see here, anyone with this link is a viewer, and you can for sure make a copy, and please feel free to use this one as you see fit. The second thing I wanted to kind of show you is, oops, I gotta go back one. Sorry, I gotta move this. I got this annotate button right on where I want to go back. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna go back. Sorry, let me go back and escape out of here. What I want you to do is I would like you to go to that planning template or go to, remember those different resources, the week of inspirational math, collection of math routines, 3-act tasks. I want you to find 2 activities between now and the next 5 minutes, 2 activities, 2 ideas, 2 things that you want to add to your planning template of the first 2 weeks of school, and start throwing that in the chat for us to kind of take a look at. So you have those ones to take a look at, the planning template. If you want to make a copy and start laying stuff on there, by all means, go ahead. But I'm going to give you the next 6 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up. 6 minutes to take a look of some of those things I kind of showcased that you would like to try in those first 2 weeks of math. And if you have any questions as you're looking, throw it in the chat. If you found something cool that you should be sharing with everybody else, please put the link in the chat. 6 minutes, and then we'll summarize and wrap up. Okay, as time is running to an end, there are so many things that we wanted to give you an opportunity to take a look at. But the one thing that we know, the Wanda and myself know, is teachers don't have time to collect all this and do this. So the big piece for us, the planning template, it really does help just kind of get your ideas going and flowing, and the big piece that you're trying to take a look at. And so, what we wanted to do is, in summary, we wanted to talk about these 5 ideas: building trust and beliefs, inspiring curiosity, promoting that collaboration, establishing expectation, and finding those engaging tasks. So, in the chat, what is a small, consistent action that you will move forward with from today? An idea, of having a thought partner today, maybe to think about some things. Just in the chat, what's a small, consistent action you will move forward with? Awesome. And I can see in the chat that a lot of people are putting in and using some engaging tasks in the first 2 weeks, making sure I start with that starter activity, making the time for starters. Yeah, Colin, we've talked about this before. Sometimes we only have 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Put a timer on. Make sure that the starter only lasts for 5 minutes. And then move on, because students really appreciate that flexibility for you to see their assets instead of their deficits through that starter. And then looking for tasks that include not only the math content, but the competencies as well. Yeah, thanks for that, Betty. And so just to wrap up, we only have 1 minute left. So Wanda and I, everything that I showed you today, Wanda and I summarized this in a 1 page-ish kind of activity. So everything that I follow through today with, we kind of put it together in a 1 pager just to make this easy for you. The video that was very emotional at the beginning with Math I Can, it's how do you get to know the students? That was the first part. The second part is those sample rich tasks and activities. And then number 3, the planning template for your first 2 weeks of school. This is where that guardian letter we talked about before, this is the one that we rewrote over there. And 3-act math ideas, lots of pre-made resources we also added onto here. So we didn't want to make it overwhelming, but we want you to get to the point and just enjoy those kiddos in those first 2 weeks of school. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have an amazing rest of the summer consortium. I have a lot of amazing colleagues that are going to be presenting during this week. And thank you for joining us. Wanda, last words?
No, we really appreciate your time. Hopefully you found something you can use in your classroom. And there's a survey link that if you have like 2 minutes to fill out a survey, we would totally appreciate that as well. So thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder, Wanda. Here's the survey link. You can just put the QR code up to your phone. Also, there's the survey. Wanda will put the survey link in the chat. And if you could just take a few minutes to fill that out, we would really appreciate that. And we'll stick around for a minute or two if anybody has any questions, but enjoy your rest of your day.
Yes, and have a great start up to your year.